Right, and we are live. Hello, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And Jacques Ninoba has announced his side, and the Springboks have gone very, very full strength. I don't think we get much stronger than this right now with the current injuries and stuff like that. There are a couple of players who are obviously still to come back from injury, but in terms of the squad we've got right now, I don't think we can pick a stronger 23. To be brutally honest. Right, now before we sort of settle into the show, first my apologies for being a bit late. The team did come out later than what was scheduled, so we had to make sure that everything was sorted on our side. Yeah, let me know. So first things first, I'm going to put out a comment. I'm going to put a poll out that, and we're going to ask who is, do you like the team? Simple yes, no question. That's going to be the poll I'm going to ask you guys. Go and vote on that and let me know what you think of the team. But we're going to go through it in a little bit. I'm going to sort of go and look at every single individual selection. I think it's a very good team. I think it's exactly the type of team we need to beat the All Blacks. A couple of very interesting calls, especially in terms of the players who involved last week also being involved once again this weekend. I don't think it'll be a massive issue for them. You know, you talk about sort of the jet lag and stuff like that, and you know, it's at the end of the day, you know, New Zealand also has to travel to Argentina, so you know those players are going to be no more or less impacted than actually the All Blacks. So yeah, I don't think we have to worry about that too much. But yeah, a couple of very interesting calls. I'm very interested in the bench. You know, and it'll be interesting to look if we look at the players who come back from injury. You know, your Sia Khaleesi's, your Andre Pollard's, your Jaden Hendricks's, for example, Cox and Chair. Which sort of players would actually come into the side if we were to play a World Cup final tomorrow? So yeah, it's an interesting side. But yeah, go and vote. Let me know what you think of the team, and we're going to go through it sort of you know, step by step. Yeah, let's have a look at it. So first things first, the front row, it's the usual sort of front row. The only, as I said, the changes would be if Oxenchair was fit, Stephen Kitsoff would drop down to the bench, and Thomas Sawyer would drop out, and Oxenchair would start. You know, the Springbok team very much works in combinations, and so Stevie Kitsoff is starting because of the injury to Oxenchair, and he's next to Bongi Manambi and Frans Malherbe. I expect Stephen Kitsoff to play about 50-60 minutes, and I expect Bongi Manambi and Frans Malherbe to play about 40 maybe. In fact, Frans Malherbe and Stephen Kitsoff might play a bit longer, but Malcolm Marx will come on about the half an hour mark, maybe the 50-minute mark at an absolute latest, to be honest. So yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward. I think we're kind of used to that. The lock pairing, Ebenezer Smith, Lua Tiago, they are back to sort of the usual candidates. And then it's a very interesting news trio. I think Franco Masters, I think, has actually really earned that number 7 start ahead of Peter Steph Toy, who I thought looked very good this weekend, looked much better, looked a lot fitter around the park. Franco Masters has been one of our best players over the last 2 years, and I think he was probably one of the players of the tournament, of the series, in that British and Irish Lions series. So I've been really impressed with how he's really sort of kicked on and you know, cemented himself within this sort of Springbok 23. He was a fantastic player in the World Cup, but very much so known for his work rate and sort of the injury room. Now he's everything. You know, he's a brilliant line-out jumper. He's a very, I mean, obviously the work rate's still there. It's just that engine, you know, his fitness is just next level. Kwagga is also somebody who I think in the last year or two has really sort of, his stocks have risen a lot. Electric type player, gets around the park very quickly, disrupts the breakdown. Different type of ball carrier to, you know, Dwayne Vermeulen and Jasper Wiese, but performs his own role very well. And then Jasper Wiese, we all know what he is, just the human wrecking ball. Still, I think got a little bit to learn at international rugby, but you know, it's a case of playing a man who's just going to bulldoze the opposition. You know, we talk about the F them up physically. He is that in embodiment. So yeah, it's a really good loose trio. I think it's a very good pack. I think we've got a lot of physicality. Ebenezer Lua Brings a lot of bulk. It's a pretty heavy pack with the exception of Kwagga Smith. Look, I mean, if you had to see Khaleesi and PSGF the toy ahead of Kwagga Smith the Frank Moss, it gets a bit heavier. But physically wise, I don't think it's much different, and I think that it's a pack that's going to get around the park. You know, Kwagga Smith, Frank Moss are very mobile players. Even Etzebeth is very mobile. So I'm very excited to see what they do, and I think the plan is obviously to hit them up front. And then we're going to try and see what this backline can do. David Phillips is starting at 10. A lot of people were not happy with that and with the idea of it. And people saying that Mike Leibach should have started. At the end of the day, they view David Williams as the second choice 10 at the moment. We know this because he started at 10 last year for those 3 tests. And, you know, the Springbok management do trust their players. So, you know, it's... Yes, maybe he's not a natural 10 in terms of playing it in his domestic side, but I think he views himself as a 10 and a 15. I think he really does back himself at 10. And I think what's a very big, important thing for them as well when it comes to David Williams is his defense. His defense is absolutely brilliant. The only sort of fly-half option that comes anywhere near to Andre Pollard's physicality when it comes to defense. His kicking game is going to be tested, isn't it? That's always the biggest sort of question mark around David Williams, is kicking for poles, whether he does actually kick for poles or whether it'll be Ches and Colby or Faf de Klerk, as well as a sort of tactical kicking. But the nice thing is, when you've got Faf de Klerk starting, you kick off 9 anyway. And that's what he does so well. So, yeah, it's a case of, I mean, Faf de Klerk's our best number 9. For me, that's not even in question. And then if we look at the rest of the back line, it's our current first choice back line. Last week, I think Curtly Oren said, threw down the gauntlet to the likes of Makamazuma Pimpy, saying, just watch your back because I just scored a hat trick. So, you got to prove what you got to offer. Dane Dalindi Lakanyama, our first choice center partnership. A lot of people were stressing about Creel. I don't think Creel would have been terrible at all. I mean, you know me. I've long said I think the slander against JC Creel is very unwarranted. It's at the end of the day, he's a very solid player. He's not Lakanyama. He's a very different type of player, but very rarely lets the box down, if ever. And would have been more than solid enough this weekend. But Lakanya does start. And I think he's actually still got a little bit to prove at the moment in terms of sort of working his way back into form. I think we can all admit that we haven't seen Lakanya that we saw last week. And we really keep waiting for him to sort of kick on and take that next step with regards to sort of getting back to his best. So we'll hopefully see a bit of that this weekend. And then Chisholm Colby, that's pretty standard, pretty standard. But then the bench is very exciting. Malcolm Marks, Thomas the Toy, Vincent Koch, Arcas Neyman, Peter Steph the Toy, Dwayne Famir. I mean, what an absolutely brilliant bunch of players to be able to bring on. And then Grant Williams gets an opportunity, which I think is quite interesting. And then Marty Ebok is probably expected because we had to have a cover for 10. So, yeah, that is the team. What do we think? Now, I've got 85% of people saying at the moment they like it. Let me go through some of the comments and see what... First of all, guys, I think, let's be logical about this. The Bok management did say about 2 weeks ago that these are World Cup trials in many ways. So, there was always going to be a lot of rotation. They still want to win matches. They obviously don't want to lose matches, but there's always going to be a lot of rotation. So, for example, when you've got... players like Jasper Wiese versus Dwayne Vermeulen, they're each going to get opportunities. Franco Moss, Peter Steph, the Toy, Kwaka Smith, Marco Van Staden. These players were always going to get a lot of game time. It's at the moment, I think, we've got our set of 23 to 25 players that we know are good enough. We're now trying to find the extra 8, aren't we? And so Curtly Orense, took his opportunity last weekend. Probably gets himself in the World Cup squad. Will he start ahead of Makazuma Pimpy? Well, I think that remains to be seen. I think that's about now seeing what Mapimpi can do. At the end of the day, Mapimpi's done a lot of good work over the last 3-4 years. So he deserves the opportunity to continue to prove himself. And he scored quite a few tries last year. At the end of the year when he did place, and he's still a World Cup winner. So yes, maybe Curtly Orense is right now in better form, and that's what they're going to find out. But, for example, apart from that, I don't think that there's too many selections over here that we can really sort of doubt. And yes, some players played well last week, but let's also be brutally honest. There's a whole different kettle of fish. Playing against a brand new Australian side under Eddie Jones, who didn't play particularly well, is very different to play against the All Blacks in Australia. I mean, in New Zealand, rather. So it's a completely different game. And... this is our strongest side, and the whole point of the sort of split squad approach was to try and make sure that a lot of key players who will be starting this weekend were well rested, well acclimatized to try and give us the edge. So we weren't going to suddenly go, right, well, let's send over pretty much our best, some of our best players. This team actually played pretty well against a very average Australia side. Therefore, we must actually just play them again. No, it's not how it works. We're preparing for the World Cup here. we're looking at options. So it's not as simple as going, oh, Malcolm Verstappen played really well last weekend. Oh, obviously he must play against ahead of Quacker Smith this weekend. That's just recency bias. Quacker Smith was one of our best players last year. Malcolm Verstappen has one good game, now he needs to start. Same thing with Andre Estesen. One of his best games in a Springbok jersey last weekend, no doubt about it. Damien Delendi's been one of the best inside centers for the last 4 years. Does an incredibly big job for the box. They were never going to suddenly go, oh, you know what, Estesen played pretty well. So Damien, you just actually get dropped this weekend. We're going to try Estesen once again. So, yeah, it was always going to be a couple of changes, and I think the changes are pretty good ones. I think that they've realized where they can rotate and where they can't rotate. Where we can't rotate is in the front row, and so we haven't. And where we can rotate is in the locks and the loose trio, which we can because we've got the depth. And the backline, I think we do have a lot of good backline players at the moment coming through, and there's a lot of depth there, so we can try and change things. So I personally, the only surprising selection is Grant Williams. I thought that Kubas Renoff would be there, and apart from that, I don't think there are too many surprise selections there. To be brutally honest, I mean, maybe a couple people saying that they thought maybe Jean-Luc Dupré would be involved. I think he'll play against Argentina. But I look at that side, and for me, there are very few surprises for me. Damien Willemse at 10, I think, was always always going to happen. Remember that these guys have been preparing for a couple of weeks now, so there would have been a game plan for New Zealand. That they would have been running patterns. Damien Willemse, David Delendi, Colby Leroux, they would have been running patterns for a while as a combination. So yeah. Also remembering that going into the World Cup, Monty the Buck's not going to be in that 23. Let's be very honest about it. Damien Willemse will be coming off the bench in the 23 jersey, in the 6-2 split, covering fly half, fullback, and inside center, and wing if he has to be. So he's going to be our utility back in the World Cup. So if he's going to have to be trusted as a second choice 10, which is what we had at France Stain and in the last World Cup, he needs to play games at 10. Because if everyone's fit and firing, Andre Pollard will start at 10. That's not even a conversation. So you've also got to sort of factor that in. That if he's going to be our reserve 10, he needs to play at 10. So yes, Monty played very well last week. Cool, great. He got the experience. Fantastic. He's going to get more game time this weekend against the All Blacks. Brilliant, fantastic. He's starting to build up, 3-4 caps. I mean, he'll be playing his fifth game this weekend. And it'll be against the All Blacks. I reckon he'll play again against Argentina. And I think that until Andre Pollard comes back, I think him and Valentin will both just be eating at the minutes at 10, which is a good thing. So yeah, let's just hear some of the comments here. Quite a few, so apologies if I missed some. Ryan Sneyman says Grant Williams looked good. Glad to see him rewarded. Katina says was a talented player, but based on form, Esterhuizen should have started. Well, that's got nothing to do with because Esterhuizen doesn't play outside centre. I think there's a chance that PSG's toy might shift into lock like last game. Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you're looking at, I think Franco Master would sooner shift into lock, and PSG's toy would go into would go into the flank. It'll be interesting. I mean, does Etzebeth play the full game? Does Luat Diago? I don't think Luat Diago will play the full game, especially if you look at our 6-2 split with Arcas name in there. So I think Arcas name for Luat Diago is a pretty predictable substitution. The question is then if whether Franco Master or Eben Etzebeth goes the full distance. Franco Master for me is somebody that can go that plays the same way in the 75th minute as the 80th minute. Eben Etzebeth coming from injury, I'd like to see him get 60 minutes and then off. We need him fit and firing and at his best for the World Cup. So I don't want to take any risks when it comes to Eben Etzebeth. So you can't say such a strong 23. I think this is a lot looking to the future come World Cup knockout games, 100%. Mick James said we should not feel bad about players not playing because Rassie trying to find the best team and giving players a good go, and this team looks like the closest to the A team. They're resting Kirtley. No, they're not resting Kirtley. He could play this weekend, but they're rotating. Versus only compared to Liebach, otherwise it's solid. Again, I think also Monty Liebach had a good game. The World Cup wasn't a perfect game, and we were playing up against New Zealand. So I don't mind the Damien Willemse to start. Goal kicking, I think, for us is an issue, but it'll be interesting to see who does the goal kicking because, we said that this was going to be an issue last year against France. And between Colby and Faf, they actually kick really, really well, ironically. I actually want to go try and find that game and check the stats because I'm pretty sure stat-wise, I think we only missed one kick that entire night. So even that sort of concept of we're worried about kicking, well, last year we actually coped pretty well with it. Where is this game? Oh, here it is, I think. There we go. Here are the stats. When France won 30-26. Where was our goal kicking success rate? That's 100%. That's what I thought it was. Yeah, we operated 100%. And that was between Colby, Faf de Klerk, and Daniel Willemse all starting. And we kicked it 100%. Ireland the week before was a bit of an issue. But and Daniel Willemse didn't have the best day of the tee. But Daniel Willemse, Colby took 2, Faf de Klerk took 1, and Daniel Willemse took 1. And we operated at 100%. So yeah, at the end of the day, I suppose it depends on the day, I suppose, how it goes. Last year we did cope in that game. So if you can cope again, for example, then why not, I suppose. Tian van den Berg said, a little worried about the lack of prop rotation as Indicane fallen out of favor. If not, will we see him start versus Argentina? I think he has to play against Argentina. It is interesting that he doesn't play this weekend. I would have thought he would have. I'm a bit sad the fact that he hasn't. I mean, I understand he hasn't had a lot of game time in wrestling, but for me, if he's in the squad, you got to play him and see him where he's at. If you don't, then as you say, if we get another injury, then all of a sudden we haven't used a lot of people very much. So I don't know who will do the place kicking. That might actually be answered in the press conference. Else we'll ask it as the week goes by. KMC said the amount of games the players have to play, they need to make 2 teams. It's just too much, 100%. Wolf says we're going to miss out on points in the tee yet again because we don't have our kicking story sorted. And also, on that note, I mean, Monty Leibach's a good place kicker, but he's not a phenomenal place kicker. So I don't think it's like, well, because he's not playing, we're guaranteed not to get any points off the tee. As I said, last year we did get points off the tee. In fact, I want to go to the South Africa versus England game. We'll also check out the Italian game as well. I mean, I say we know that David Phillips struggled versus Ireland. The goal kicking wasn't great, but after that there was far less of an issue. I mean, at the end of the day, our base goal kickers in the squad are Alton Yankees and Andre Paul, and they're both not playing. So Molly is probably the next base goal kicker after that. But right, so against England, we missed 2. Unfortunately, doesn't say. And Faf de Klerk was the one kicking there, and Daniel Willemse got 2. Faf de Klerk got 1, and he must have missed 2. And then against Italy. We operated at go away. Well, I'd love to check, but I've got pop-ups that are popping up and not showing me, so that's really helpful. So I can't even tell you, unfortunately, because yeah, the pop-ups that are preventing me from having a look. It's very annoying. But anyway, some of the other chaps, Grant saying, I love that we are going with the false 10 formation again. It's going to catch on internationally. Yeah, that's not an interesting point. Does Pollard really deserve to hold in the spot? He hasn't played international for a while. He could be the most vulnerable player to get injured at the World Cup. Yeah, listen, if you're asking if the guy who won us the World Cup last year and has had one of his best domestic seasons in the last probably 4 or 5 years should be playing in the World Cup, the answer is yes. He will be back. For example, if you're going to ask that question, and yes, he didn't play last year as much as we would have liked him to have. But in terms of this year, he's played a lot of rugby. Played very good rugby, and if you're worried about him coming back in August and playing in the World Cup, then we should also be worried about Khaleesi. And I personally am not worried about either. JP says, Grant Williams clearly made an impression after close performance last week. I really feel he's 3rd, 4th choice. Brave says, money players, we get more tries, so points off the tee is not issue. Again, that's just pure speculation, isn't it? There's absolutely zero. You can't base on the fact of one start and 3 PMs off the bench that if Moneybug plays, all of a sudden we're going to score tries for fun. This is a completely different beast, chaps. This is an All Black side who are playing a lot better than a year ago, and are playing at home. This is not an Australian side playing away at Loftus, and a very new Australian side which didn't really pitch up. Jay's saying our squad depth is crazy, spoiled for choice. CS saying, I know a lot we're expecting some exciting names to dazzle, but I think the coach will only tinker with the squad again in that game against Pumas if they do well against the All Blacks. And Fred says, the interchangeability of Leroux and Damien at 10 and 15 gives us an extra back on the field. Yana saying, I'm too slow, so we're going to find out this weekend for that. Leandre Bay is saying, love seeing Money on the bench, would have loved to see Kirkley on the wing, but I suspect that Mpimpi's place will be determined with how he plays. Well, exactly. As I said, he deserves the opportunity to show what he's got. And then if he doesn't pitch up this weekend, if he struggles, then all of a sudden you're going to sit there saying, right, well, Kirkley's not struggling, so we're going to give him another game. And if he outplays you, then guess what? He's going to become the pecking order is going to change, and he's going to become the number one, starting winger. And you're going to then have to try and change that. You're going to have to come out and prove why you should and you deserve that spot. So I don't mind that sort of that from that perspective. That's what you want, isn't it? It's easy to say Kirkley Lawrence has had a great game. He's got to start. But Mpimpi is a bit of a different player. So, yes, I do think that right now Kirkley Lawrence is putting a lot of pressure on him. And it'll be interesting to see how, when we go into the World Cup, what's going to happen. But, also different, horses for courses situation as well. Yes, I've been very impressed with Kirkley Lawrence's defense, stuff like that. Mpimpi is a bit bigger, for example. And it's probably going to go up against... be interested to see who they do go with winger this weekend, but it could be Mark Tellier, for example, who's also a pretty big wing. Kelly Clark, another wing versus Colby is going to be a very big battle. Fred said the selection suggests we're going back to set piece style rugby, and I'm hoping to continue our ball play from last weekend. We're a set piece team. We didn't move away from a set piece team last weekend. How good were our scrums? The lineouts were an issue, but we didn't move away from a set piece team. We've always going to be a set piece team. Why wouldn't you be a set piece team? If you've got one of the best set pieces in the world, use it. Ricardo says, Quacker gets injured, who replaces him in the game? I think that's probably one of the. I think he goes the distance for me. There isn't really a natural backup for him in this team over here. So you could put Peter Jeff, Toy, and Frank Moss on the two different flanks, but very different type of players. So that's what I'm saying. His stocks have become very important. With the injury to Sia Khaleesi. Malcolm and Staden played well this last weekend. I think his place in the squad has become quite important. But yeah, you do make a very good point, for example, and this is why I think in the World Cup, Kwaka Smith will be on the bench there. He'll be in that Francois Lowe position for me. Because I think you do have to have a fetcher coming off the bench. Although you got Malcolm Marx comes with the second half, he'll do the fetching in inverted commas. But it will be a very different look, loose chair if you were to go off. Creators would hope to see Andre on the bench. Problem is you need a 10 cover. And Wolf says Damien holds up a lot of potential players. I don't know about him, but really impressed with Andre's all-round game. I think Damien didn't won us a World Cup and a British Irish Lions series. Bravestar says Molly and Grant off the bench shows they want to amp up the speed in the last 20. Sia saying the best way to beat All Blacks is to outscore them with tries, not 3 points or penalties. A kicking 10 is not as needed much as a good 9/10 who will guarantee to try and good play. Right. Well, as I said, we've beaten them every year since that we played them since 2018. And we've beaten them through often, pretty good forward play and a very solid game plan. 16-16 is not a high scoring game. The game before that, I think, was relatively high scoring, 36-34 2018. But you definitely can beat the All Blacks with penalty stuff again. You don't have to go and score tries all the time to beat them. I don't think it's as simple as that. So DD say really worried that we're not starting with a recognised kicker with Glad Money on the bench. It's backup, probably best team that come up with. Narawa was solid, and I think they chose for defence. I assume that he does start again. Grant says Redford is the only realist to replace Kwaka if he goes down. Yeah, I'd be interested to see if they would then put on Dwayne on the flank or whether they'd. Yeah, I have no idea how they'd actually work it out. As I said, from a fetching point of view, you've got Kitsoff, Marks, Vermeulen and Kwagga Smith, they're all fetchers in the side. But none of them have the pace and the mobility that Kwagga has. Cobra says, Mark should start in my opinion. Albert, if we beat the All Blacks, then Argentina game will be experimental team. ACC, we are committing suicide. I mean, it's wild to go Steven Kitsov, World Cup winner. Bongi Benambi, World Cup winner. Frans Malherbe, World Cup winner. Evan Etzebeth, World Cup winner. Lurt Diago, World Cup winner. Kwagga Smith, World Cup winner. Franco Marston, World Cup winner. Jasper Wiese new to the side. Faf de Klerk, World Cup winner. Damien Willemsen, World Cup winner. Marcus Onumapimpi, World Cup winner. Damon De Lindy, World Cup winner. Lakanya Am, World Cup winner. Cheslin Colby, World Cup winner. Billy LaRue, World Cup winner. And to then say we're committing suicide. There are 14 World Cup winners in the side. 14 in the starting lineup, by the way. Off the bench, Malcolm Mox, World Cup winner. Thomas Toy, World Cup winner. Vincent Koch, World Cup winner. Archie Stamen, World Cup winner. Pierce Toy, World Cup winner. Dave Mir, World Cup winner. That's 6 out of your 8 are World Cup winners on the bench as well. So we're talking about a team that has 20 out of 23 Rugby World Cup winners. So to say we're committing suicide is a pretty hot take, in my opinion. Loazi says, with 3 lineup options, I'd really like to see the guys competing in the lineup when the opposition throw in. Yanis is back on fat kicking game. There's my rugby week swearing coming back. I said, I hope you're one of those people that swore the entire that swore the entire time the 2019 Rugby World Cup, and then had to take your medicine when we did win. And I also hope that you complain a lot when France kicks the ball, because they kick the ball more than anybody else in the world. And first, still can't believe this exact game could be the quarterfinal in the World Cup. Yeah, I mean, literally, that is a fair example and a very good point. This could be a World Cup clash. I mean, how mental is that? You could have the Boks versus the All Blacks, the biggest rivalry in rugby, as the Rugby World Cup's quarterfinal. How boring is that? I want to play New Zealand in the final again. It's... Yeah, we just don't get to play them in finals, unfortunately, and since '95. My cushions come off my chair. Very annoying. So yeah, we're gonna start wrapping up there, people. It's we're gonna go live tomorrow and we're gonna have another look at this. Seeing as we're gonna have a bit of a day to sort of reflect on it and understand exactly how it all sort of works. Thursday will be the fan forum. We hope you're going to have Chris back. We're going to have a betting segment. And then Friday, we will have in terms of the press conference, so what was I going to say? Word Steve. Oh, yeah. The announced press conference will be up within the next 10 to 15 minutes. So check that out on the channel. Tomorrow we will have press conference every single day coming out of the block camp. Unfortunately, at this stage, it doesn't look like we will have any of the New Zealand press conferences. And then on Saturday, we obviously go live very early. The kicks off at about 9. We're hoping to have a bit of a pre-show at about 8 o'clock, which should be quite cool. And then I'll be live at Hofstra Stage with you guys. And last weekend, we did the biggest watch along in YouTube history. So how about this is my thinking. We try and do the same thing again this weekend and make this weekend the biggest watch along in YouTube history once again. And so if you haven't already, by the way, please do subscribe to the channel. We are 300 people, less than, we're 230 people odd away from 31,000 subscribers as we now look to the next big milestone, which is 35,000 subscribers. We ticked off 30,000. We're now looking for that 35, then the 40. When we get to 50, I'm popping champagne. And then all of a sudden we're halfway to 100, which would be mental. That's when we get a little plaque, by the way. You get a little YouTube plaque when you get to 100,000 subscribers. So, imagine if we were to do that. But yeah, people, keep very well. Go and throw all your comments and stuff on the team. You can comment on this video afterwards. You can go check out the announcement. You can go check out the presser where they'll announce. They'll explain exactly what the thinking is between the various selections and stuff like that. I will see you guys tomorrow at about 1 o'clock for the Rugby News Live. We'll see you guys on Thursday in the evening for the fan forum. And then we're gonna have the entire week where we can debate and discuss and shout at each other regarding why this team is so good or not good, etc. And then we get to watch it all unfold on Saturday morning. Smash like on the video on the way out. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. As always, my name is Steven, and I will chat to you guys all very soon.